talking about family experiences this morning. You may have some stories of your own that you wish to share with us as we go through the course of the interview. You can email me, vicky@ucb.co.uk, because I'm joined on the line by a friend of the show, Helen Goldenberg, a fantastic author, to tell us more about your latest book. Good morning, Helen. It's called Jesus, Your Baby and You. And it's fair to say that when it comes to parenting, for those that don't know about you and your husband, you're very much involved in children's ministry and have a fair amount of experience.
Yes, we do. Good morning, Vicky. Yes, we have 5 children of our own. We have 4 gorgeous boys and 1 beautiful young girl. And yeah, we've been in children's ministry for around 20 years. I feel really old when I say that.
You've got a lot of wisdom.
Well, I hope so. I hope we've gathered some along the way. I mean, I think we're always constantly learning as we go along the way, and I can never ever say that I'm an expert in anything, because I don't think anybody is an expert in anything. But we have a love for children, and we've realised throughout our time and season as children's pastors and children's ministers that actually children's ministry doesn't start just from when they're born. It starts so much more earlier than that, and that's why I wrote this book, Jesus, Your Baby and You, a guide to trusting God in your pregnancy.
It's interesting you said that they're not, we're not all an expert, and yet when it comes to people becoming pregnant, many mums-to-be suddenly get a whole load of advice sent their way, don't they?
Oh, they do. They do, and actually they say people who think they're experts are usually those who don't have children and grandparents. So you do get an awful lot thrown at you, and it is actually sometimes a bit overpowering because you have all these different things coming at you from all different sides, and with the different elements of advice that come at you, you get the different stories, and you get this is what happened to me, and this is what happened to me, and what you should be doing is this. And you go, well, what am I supposed to do in the midst of all of this? With my first child, I came into being pregnant with this situation, with so many people giving me so much good advice, and it was well-meaning. It wasn't meant to harm me or hurt me in any way, but they wanted to share their birthing experience. They wanted to share their stories, which weren't always helpful, and sometimes implanted a bit of fear in the whole pregnancy experience and took away the joy that actually all entails. So yes, these things do happen, and and I just felt that a book needed to be written so we can put God the centre, and not people's advice the centre, but God the centre of our pregnancy, and knowing that He is very much interested and very much wants to be part of every element of our pregnancy, even before conception. So He's really interested in that.
So what kind of real impact do you think parents can be having on their child then when it comes to them, as you say, pregnancy, really thinking about your child's life from the moment of conception, I guess?
Yeah, well, children are affected by the environment that we put them in and the emotions that we feel. And when we spend time in God's presence, worshipping, we are exposing them to the presence of God. So if you are aware, even just a little minute amount, of the beautiful destiny that you have within your womb, that God has created that. I mean, the fact that there is a child there is a miracle in itself. You just think the cells are just suddenly recreated millions of times to create this beautiful child that suddenly comes to see you 9 months later. That is a miracle. And why has God placed that miracle within you? Well, God has placed that miracle in you personally for a reason. He has set you apart as the parent at that point for that child for a reason, and God has placed that destiny upon them. You know, Elizabeth, when she was pregnant with John the Baptist, she must have been a real praying woman, because she put aside time with God, knowing His presence. And when John the Baptist was in his 3rd trimester, he responded to the Spirit of God in Jesus, who was in his 1st trimester in Mary's womb. And there was a leaping, and there was like a joy leaping going on there. And it's like God is saying, you know, I can touch you even whilst you're in the womb. I know what plan I have for you even from the womb. And Jeremiah 1 verse 3, he got something very personal in this verse, and I love it. I really love it. It says, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. So God knew the destiny of Jeremiah, and He knew what He was doing when He was forming that beautiful child of Jeremiah in his mother's womb. So how much more within our own can God do with that? If we realise that, we can pray for our children, we can worship, set ourselves in situations where God is there, and know that God can actually interact with our children beautifully.
You say there that God knows the destiny of every single child to be, and yet so many mums-to-be have so much medical advice given to them and are aware of the in practicalities what could go wrong. It's not surprising that fear can creep in during those 9 months.
Absolutely. And doctors and midwives' experience and advice is very, very important, and they must be listened to, because they are the experts in their field. They know what they're talking about. But also knowing that God can turn around a situation for good. I know that when I've been blessed with my pregnancies, I really have. But with my last one, my little girl, I had gestational diabetes. And I thought, well, that's just not right. I can't have that. That's not right. And the doctors were constantly giving me advice saying, well, you now need to be thinking this way and doing this way. And I did it to the book. I took the blood test. I did everything that I was supposed to do. But throughout the whole point, I was putting God in the centre and trusting him, that he was going to take charge and make sure that my baby wasn't harmed during that time and everything like that. And through that, we saw God's miracles come and the diabetes subside and everything, where God just came in and said, right, this is what they say, but this is what I say. And God is the great I am. He is the creator of all. And it doesn't happen every time when you see a amazing change around. But you know that if you place God in the centre and place him in the middle of what you're doing, you can always rely on him to be there as a presence of peace, to take away the fear. It says in Isaiah 41 verse 10, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. Hormones, fear, anxiety in pregnancy is normal. A woman goes through so many changes while she's pregnant. It's just ridiculous. But actually, if we can put God in there and try and get that peace that passes all understanding into our hearts and minds, knowing that God is with us, then something different changes and our mindset changes towards what God is doing within our womb.
Can I bring you back to that? A peace that surpasses all understanding. I understand that you actually had a miscarriage. How did you draw upon God's strength through that situation?
It was heartbreaking. Of course it's heartbreaking. To try and describe what a woman goes through when they know they're pregnant and then all of a sudden that pregnancy is no longer, it's painful. It's painful. But our child we gave all our children prophetic names, because we thought, well, if people are going to speak to us and ask us how's he doing, they don't know if they're a she or a he, and they're definitely not an it. So we gave them a prophetic name, and that particular baby we called Abundant Joy. And before they went to be with the Lord, I really believe they now are in abundant joy, and they are in a place where God has taken them. We said to our children at that point, this is the one that Jesus wanted to keep. And I think that's the way we just thought of it. That child was precious to Jesus still, even though we didn't get to hold them in our arms physically. God still wanted to keep them, and he took them back into his loving arms.
We've talked quite a lot about the mums-to-be in this situation. What about the husbands as well? What advice would you have for them today?
Well, we've got a whole chapter on the husbands. Don't worry, fathers, you're not forgotten. And I think sometimes when you're talking about pregnancy, it is very much all on the woman. But the men, it's so important that men are very much involved in every aspect of the pregnancy. They're right in the beginning, and they should be there right to the end.
Absolutely.
But literally, we've had testimonies from husbands and partners in the book, and where they've just laid hands on the baby, felt the baby move, talked to the baby. And babies do get to understand their father's voice whilst in the womb. I've seen videos where after the baby is born, the father speaks to the child and the child just quietens because they know their father's voice. And so the more a father can speak, lay hands, pray with the mother, pray for their child, just together, there is something that makes them feel they're very much part of what's going on. Go to all the classes that are involved in all of that. Be involved in seeing the baby for the first time on the scan. It's the most magical, amazing time for everyone to be involved in. So, fathers, you are a strength, and just to support the wife, because the wife, unfortunately, gets tired. It's natural when you're towards the end of your pregnancy. So looking out and seeing what you could be doing as a father for your wife, and thinking ahead for what they could be doing when the child comes. What is their role? What are their plans to be doing when the baby actually does come? So lots of different advice there.
Helen, just as we draw to a close, what about the community around these families? And perhaps they haven't been through an experience of having children. In what ways can the church and families around these individuals be supporting them?
There's so much that they can do. We used to run a womb ministry, and that we used to get midwives and lots of different paediatricians coming in to come and speak to our mothers and mothers-to-be and parents and fathers-to-be. We just need people to become ambassadors for this next generation and support pregnant families in the churches and community, encourage them to expose their babies to the presence of God and trust God through their pregnancy. We've seen a whole church community take this seriously from the womb. It changes the perception of family and children's ministry in the churches. So if there's any of your listeners out there who are interested in being ambassadors, they could set up a womb ministry, and all the details are in the book, and that's how to encourage them and take care of the ladies and men who are ready to be fathers and mothers-to-be. Or they could even take advantage of our 10 for 5 offer for our book. We've got a special deal on our website where they can actually buy 10 for the price of 5 of our book, and just give it out as a gift to all those that you know within your church, because it is going to really bless this generation. There's a real attack on this generation, and we need God-inspired, faith-filled parents ready to prepare their children in the things of God. Those who don't have children, see who you can reach out to, see who you can pray for, encourage them in their walk, that this generation is going to arise and be an amazing generation for Christ.
It is a great read, and it's presented in such an easy format as well to get a hold of. childrencan.co.uk is the website to find out more about it. Helen has very kindly agreed to give away a copy on air today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one song, and if you would like a copy of Helen Goldenberg's book, Jesus, Your Baby and You, A Guide to Trusting God During Pregnancy. For now, Helen Goldenberg, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
UCB UK, today's best Christian music.
Jesus, Your Baby and You, A Guide to Trusting God During Your Pregnancy. Certainly many of you saying how much, just taking encouragement from what Helen had to say there. That's it. Please stop texting in. Lynn, our wonderful producer, will be picking one winner for that book in a few moments' time. But in the meantime, if you do want to check out more about her book, childrencan.co.uk is the website. Now.